Hello and welcome to Live from the Eagle's Nest. I'm Randy Robinson. We're coming to you from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services National Conservation Training Center studio near Shepherdstown, West Virginia, along the banks of the Potomac River. We're the home of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and since 2003, home to this beautiful nest of bald eagles, nesting pairs of bald eagles, I should say, about 85 feet up in the top of that big sycamore tree. Thanks for joining us today. I want to say thanks to everyone that makes this possible, the Outdoor Channel for the streaming, the Friends of NCTC, Bald Eagles 101, and everybody that is in the chat room and posting videos and photos and comments, keeping track of what these eaglets or eagles are doing pretty much 24/7. And so we've got a beautiful day in the neighborhood here. The two young eaglets are up and about and they've been hopping around. This is camera 2 that we're looking at. We're right about 85 degrees here on June 4th, so it's a beautiful day. And lately we've been seeing them doing a lot of wing exercises. Now somebody asked in the chat room how old they are. They are today, let's see, I've got it written down, 69 days old and 66 days old. So just shy of 10 weeks. Tomorrow the oldest will be 10 weeks old or 70 days. So go ahead and send your questions in anytime. We want to welcome our old friends, and thanks to Brett and Rob in the control room there for doing all of our production work here today. And we'll get to as many questions as we can. Just a quick update. These guys are doing very well. Now, over the weekend, the past few days, we had some pretty high water on the Potomac River. A lot of rainfall. The river got high, turbulent, very muddy. It was hard for the adults to catch fish. So pickings were a little bit slim for these young ones. They're not able to fly yet, and they won't be for a few weeks. But they were getting a little bit of food, but not as much as they like. They're pretty much eating machines now. They're hungry all the time if they're awake. And so the good news is the last few days the river has receded some, cleared up a bit, and now the adults have been bringing plenty of food in for them. And we'll take a look at some of those videos here in just a little bit. Now, being that they're 10 weeks old, we might see them start to branch at any time. We call it branching, and that means when they leave the nest, they're not ready to fly yet, but they might go out on a branch. So let's take a look at what that might look like. Now, we have got a camera 1 here. Rob will bring it up. And one of the questions earlier was, what are we looking at here? This is a grove of sycamore trees. We're close up on it now. But this is a favorite perch area for the adults. Now, the young ones won't be here, but we'll give you some perspective here in a little bit. This is where the adults like to perch, and even though we don't see them on the nest this time of the year when the young ones or the juveniles are getting bigger, they often are hanging out over here. So Rob, if you would go back out to the daycare grove, we'll get a little wider perspective. And now you can see there's more of those sycamore trees there. The one we were just looking at close up was on the left side. We do have a branch, that's the shadow that you see, right in front of our camera 1, which is about 90 feet up in the tree. We were kind of hoping it might blow down in the wind, but it's still there. So Rob, if you could go to the daycare grove now. Or I'm sorry, the home part. There we go. Now you can see that branch a little bit more, so it's in our way a little bit, but not too bad. At least we can see the eagles coming and going. You can't see the Potomac from here, but it's just beyond that grove of trees in that valley, and that's where the eagles are going to be doing their hunting and fishing mainly, hunting in the fields. If they can't find fish, they go after squirrel or rabbit or groundhog, snakes, anything they can find, but fish is their preferred food for the young ones. So that's what it looks like to the north and northwest of here. Now, Rob, if you'd take a look at the wide angle on the lower nest, again, we're on the same camera looking down now from about 15 feet above the nest, probably more like 20 feet above the nest. And you can see the stump of the original limb there, a big limb that held up our original nest that unfortunately blew down last spring. And we lost the 3 eaglets out of it, but the good news was there that the adults were okay and they came back, built up this new nest, and now we've got the 2 juveniles down there. So if you go in a little bit closer, Rob, we'll get a look at them. And now you can see that stump. Yeah, 70-mile-per-hour wind came along last spring, and the spring of 25, I should say, April 19th, and knocked that big nest out of the tree. But they've rebuilt, and they're doing very well, getting plenty to eat now. And we'll get one more shot here if you go to that nest rim. And we can get even closer than this, but we won't for today because it's kind of in the shadows now, a little bit hard to see on this view. But the young ones are looking up. Now, sometimes the adults like to stand up in the top of the tree, and we've got some videos to show you in a little bit of that. But you can see the one looking up there now. He might, or she might be seeing one of the adults up in the tree that we can't see. So there's a lot of options for them when they decide to branch out. So we can really say that bald eagles are a conservation success story. Populations are rising across much of the country. Clean rivers and lakes are vital to their habitat. So our national symbol and our national bird are doing very well. But other bird species, not so well. Even common species that we once saw lots of, like barn swallows, for example, other songbirds, need our help. Now, citizen science or community science is one way that we can help, and we'll have Janet Adey join us in a little bit to talk about some new ideas in those realms. But first, let's take a look at some highlights of the past few weeks, and thanks to Deb Stecyk for her videos that she posts online. So we'll look at, first, we'll look at May 25th. Here we go. We've got the young ones. This was, they're about 8 weeks old here. And this is RJ up in the foreground. RJ, or Raleigh Jr., named in honor of Raleigh and Susie, our longtime friends on the EagleCam. So we'll get to see RJ perform a feat here known as casting a pellet. Now, you've probably heard of owls doing this, and eagles do it too. And so what happens is they get some undigestible material. And here we go. They eat fins of fish, they eat squirrel hide, and you've probably seen them if you've been watching the EagleCam, swallow some of that stuff whole. And watch closely now. You're going to see a couple things come out. 1, 2, right there. Now RJ's looking down to see, he's kind of curious of what just came out there, but that's called casting a pellet, and it's simply undigestible food. And not uncommon for eagles to do that. And there we can see the inside of his throat and his tongue and so on. He was about 8 weeks old in this case. That's Susie, big sister behind him. She's about 3 days older. So now we'll go to the 26th of May. And this is an early morning shot before there was enough light to turn on the color camera. So in low light situations, the camera shoots in black and white. And then once we get enough sun, it turns to color. But there they go. They're doing their wing exercises, or wingersizing, or wingers. But we see them do that a lot at this age. They're getting the feel of the wind under their wings. They're also strengthening their wing muscles, and they're going to need very strong muscles to practice, or to practice flying, but to actually fly here in just a couple of weeks. Now, bald eagles generally fledge or leave the nest for the first time right around 11 or 12 weeks of age. But you know, if something happens, sometimes they get knocked out of the nest accidentally. They could manage at 10 weeks, but hopefully we're going to see these guys in here for a couple more weeks until they get good and strong, and around 11 or 12 weeks of age they ought to be able to fledge or fly off on their own for the first time. Okay, Rob, if you go to the next video, and this is the 29th of May. And I think we have some food delivery coming in here. Now getting some good air there for sure. So they love to do this on windy days. You can see how they get the wind under their wings and really gets them the feel of what it feels like. And it's kind of funny when they leave for the first time, you know, they're pretty good at taking off. They've been doing a lot of practicing. But not so good at landing, and we've seen some pretty amusing landing events. One year, I think it was our young bird called Jefferson, came back, landed on a branch that wasn't big enough to support him, and he flipped upside down and kind of hung upside down for a little while. But he figured it out, and he let go. Okay, Rob, if you go to the next one then. And this is May 27th. They are in there vocalizing. And if you've got the volume up on your, however you're watching this, on your computer, your phone, or your tablet, you'll hear them squawking in there. And what they're squawking about is that one of the adults is in the upper tree. And you can see them both of the young ones looking up. And that loud, shrill sound, that's one of the adults talking to them. And so they're talking back and forth. I'll be quiet for a little bit so you can hear them. And we're back at June 1st, just a couple days ago, early in the morning. They like to wake up with the sun, getting their morning exercise in there. Now they're nearly fully grown, pretty much 95% grown. They're still developing some of their coordination and their muscle strength, but they're close to adult size. Of course, they're not going to get that white head and white tail feather until they're 5 years old and mating age. But here's a fish delivery. This was Bella, the female, just brought a nice part of a catfish in. And you can see the behavior here. This is called mantling. The young bird on the left, mom's going to get out of the way there. Gets pretty chaotic when food comes into the nest. But they've learned, there's a pecking order here. The oldest one gets to eat first, and then the younger one will take its turn, and it all works out. They'll all get plenty to eat. But that mantling is really a survival tactic. Out in the wild, when these guys are out along the river and they catch a fish or find something else to eat, other birds are going to see that, other eagles or osprey, especially other eagles, and they're going to try to come and get that food. So you've got, if you're a young eagle, you got to learn to protect your food, and they do that by mantling or spreading their wings out, hovering over it. Now you just saw the female, Bella there, she just grabbed the remains of a painted turtle that was brought into the nest. some days ago. This unfortunate turtle was out there, and anyway, it's been food for several days here, and she's going to snack on that while the young ones get the fish. Now they've been, the last week or maybe 10 days, they've been starting to feed on their own. That takes a certain amount of strength. They actually have to stand on the food, on the fish or the prey, whatever it is, and use their beaks to tear off pieces. That takes a certain amount of strength and coordination, but they are definitely getting the hang of it. Okay, so we'll go to a few Q&A now. We're back looking at the live show. Some folks were asking about an update on the Traverse City, Michigan nest and the young eaglet called Snow up there. Now you might have heard that that nest collapsed. It was on a steep angle for a week or two, couple of weeks, and then it fell down just the other day. Good news, bad news. Good news is that the young eaglet survived. And the bad news, she's got a couple broken bones, one in each wing. Her ulna, or kind of an elbow in human terms, and the other wing has a wrist fracture. But the other good news is she's young and those should heal up. So she's going to be and she is in a rehab center now. They rescued her pretty quickly, male or female, I'm not sure which, but in the rehab now, and they think that they will be able to splint and bandage those fractures, and that she's young enough and that they should be able to heal up okay. So they're going to keep her for a while in the Wildlife Rehab Center, and then hopefully as soon as she's healed up enough to be on her own, return her to the nest area. Now someone asked, what happens to juveniles rescued with no nest to return to? Well, in that case, in past years we've seen temporary nests, or what we sometimes call hacking towers. A few years ago there was a nest that was lost, and some local folks, it was out in the Midwest, they quickly built a kind of a platform, like a deck basically, and put up a temporary nest there. They put the young eaglets back in it, and it was underneath their existing nest tree, and the adults came and fed them. Now, you may have heard of hacking towers. Hacking is a term for, basically it's an artificial nest or a man-made nest, but it's been used for many years. Falconers developed techniques, and remember Tina Morris was our guest here a few weeks ago, and her book Return to the Sky by Tina Morris. Really, Tina developed the techniques in bald eagles of how to do hacking, and she had a tower that was built up at Montezuma National Wildlife Refuge. She was a graduate student at Cornell at the time, and it was her job to figure out the techniques for raising young bald eagles. As we said, it's called hacking. And Tina wrote her thesis on that technique, and that became kind of the handbook for how to raise young bald eagles. So the main thing is if the bird's going to go back into the wild, you don't want them to imprint on humans, and therefore you don't want them to see humans. And so when Tina was working with these young eaglets, they had a tower built that she would have to climb up and then slide their food or their fish down a chute to where they didn't see her or have interaction with her. And then when they were ready to leave, they flew out onto the marsh at the Montezuma Refuge and learned how to hunt and fish on their own. So hacking is really getting the young bird raised up slowly, but with human assistance, but not imprinting on humans as other birds like ducks or geese or chickens might. If they see you feeding them, they think you're the adult, and they think in some sense that they're sort of human. So thanks to Tina's work and the good work of many other folks, eagles are doing very well. Pretty much across the country, their populations are coming up, but other species need our help. And so community science or citizen science is one way we can help birds and other wildlife. We're very fortunate to have Janet Adie here to share some of those new ideas. Now, Janet's a retired Fish and Wildlife Service and Bureau of Land Management staffer for a number of years. She was chief here at the NCTC. She was chief of Division of Education Outreach. And Janet's now a very active volunteer with Green Schools, Potomac Valley Audubon Society, and the Audubon Society of Central Maryland. And she's very passionate about connecting young people to nature via community science. So, Janet, thanks for joining us.
Okay, well, thank you, Randy. Today we're going to talk about community science and how everyday people, including you, students, teachers, families, birdwatchers, anybody, can help scientists just by paying attention and recording what they notice and then sharing their good observations. And community science just means people who aren't professional scientists, and they help collect information that scientists can use. And you might have heard it called citizen science or participatory science or maybe public participation in scientific research. But the basic idea is simple, that regular people making careful observations wherever they are can share their observations, and it shows patterns that scientists can then use to inform their research. And one scientist could never do all that alone, so it's really important, really helpful. Birds are perfect for community science because, first of all, they're everywhere. Everywhere you go, you're going to be able to see birds. They're in cities, they're in farms, they're forests, wetlands, even in your backyard and in your schoolyard. And also birds, you've heard of the canary in the coal mine before, where the birds are sort of the harbingers or the early bird warning of things, changes in the habitat. So birds are good things to study, to understand what's going on in the rest of the environment. And when people report where birds are and when they arrive during their migration and what they're doing, the scientists can better understand what to do to conserve birds. And one of my favorite people in the history of bird watching is somebody named Florence Miriam Bailey. She's sort of the one who started birding as an activity for regular people, not just for scientists. And she actually went out and used opera glasses. Like, you know, these they look like binoculars, but they weren't that fancy then, and people used them when they went to the opera so they could see the opera singers on the stage. But she started using those to watch birds, and she showed other people how to do that, because before, people would have to shoot the birds to be able to see them up close. And using opera glasses and later binoculars to watch living birds, you didn't have to kill the bird that way. So when she was a student, she actually got her friends to become aware of how important birds were and to get people to stop using birds as decorations on their hats and to start appreciating bird watching, go out and watch birds for pure enjoyment, and also to record what they saw to share with scientists. And you can do that too. So if you want to try this yourself, all you have to do is take your time and just follow a few rules, and I'll go over those here, but also there's some great brochures and handouts that you can get to remind you of everything. But you want to just take your time, use your eyes and your ears, and be patient. Birds will fly away if you're too noisy, so you have to be quiet and just start focusing. Where are they? Are they up in the tree? Are they near the water? Are they at a feeder? Are they singing? Are they eating? Are they making a nest, carrying sticks around, or just soaring, or baby feeding their young? And you don't have to know what the bird is necessarily to make a careful observation, especially now with with some of the apps that are out there. Like you take a photograph and it can identify the bird for you. But once you start making a lot of observations, you'll start to get to know them. So one thing you have to be careful of is disturbing the birds. You don't want to scare them or make them unusually stressed out, because that can impact their ability to take care of their young or to get their food. And there's just some simple code of ethics that you can follow that are listed right here. It's common sense, really. Just make sure you're keeping your distance and don't touch the eggs or baby birds, and unless you're with a scientist or somebody who has a permit to do that. Make sure you stay on paths in parks or wherever you are, and whisper. Keep your voice down. Don't make lots of loud sounds, because of course you'll scare the birds off, and then you won't be able to see them anymore. And then always follow leave no trace rules, and leave everything just the way you found it. So another thing to remember when you're watching birds and making observations is make sure you're honest, tell the truth. Even though you wish you had seen something, if you didn't, it's okay. And also, my scientist friends like to say 0 is a number. So if you didn't see anything, that's a valid observation. You can just put 0 down because you didn't see anything. That's useful information. If you aren't sure what you're seeing, just record what you do see: the color, the size, the shape, the sound, location, any photos or drawings. All of that is helpful, and that's what scientists do too. They don't always have all the answers. After you're making your observations, or while you're making your observations, you want to make sure that you're writing everything down and you're making a record. So this is the part where you're just writing down things like the date and the time and the location. What was the weather like? Sunny, cloudy, windy, rainy, cold, hot? How many birds did you see or hear? What were they doing? We talked about that already. And then adding a drawing or a short description or a photograph, if you have one, will help. And then when you make these kinds of observations carefully and do it the same every time, that adds up to a really nice record that becomes part of the scientific story of what you're observing. And there's lots of different projects that you can participate in for bird community science. And some of them you might have heard about before. There's one called Project Feeder Watch, and you do that in the winter time. You don't even have to go outside for that one. You can just watch birds from inside and see which birds come to your feeder and make a record of that. The Christmas bird count's a big one that happens. It's been happening for over 100 years and happens around Christmas time in the winter time. And people go out and count all the birds and what kinds there are in their area. The big sit is really fun. That one you sit in a big circle and just see whatever birds come into your line of sight while you're sitting there. And that's usually done in the fall, and that could be a really interesting one. And with things like apps like eBird and the Merlin Bird ID, you can use those to identify birds anytime, and that data will be uploaded to a larger database that anybody who's interested can access. So if you go to the Environment for the Americas website, which is listed here, you can find links to all of these projects and a lot more too. And other ways that you can help birds and also contribute to community science is by looking at some of the hazards that birds face. Birds can have a hard time sometimes, and there's projects, citizen science, community science projects that you can participate in that help track the hazards that the birds are facing. So there's one about bird collisions called the Global Bird Collision Mapper. And then you can, if you're concerned about having too many collisions and windows, birds near you, you can go ahead and do things to make your own windows safer and more bird friendly. And you can also help birds by cleaning up trash and taking away debris that they might eat and it might make them sick or keep them from getting good nutrition. And there's a project called the International Coastal Cleanup that will help you learn how to do that, but also is an opportunity for you to report the trash that you see so that they can help identify troublesome areas and get that cleaned up. And something called Globe at Night talks about it's an opportunity for you to look at light in the in your neighborhood and see if there's too many lights on at night. That will help not help cause problems for birds when they're trying to migrate because it's too bright. They really need a dark night sky, and if you can help by participating in the Globe at Night and measure the darkness of the sky or the brightness of the sky, you can help your community learn about light pollution and some of the things that you might be able to do to help birds when they're trying to travel at night. Something else that's really fun to do is just tracking the timing of what living things are doing. The big word called phenology. That means the timing of when flowers bloom or when insects appear or when birds migrate or nest. And there's a wonderful community science program called Nature's Notebook that helps you do that. You can watch the monarchs migrating back or see if the flowers will be blooming at the same time that the birds are going to be there, because birds really depend on that food to be there when they're trying to make a long migration. And all the observations that you make are going to help scientists learn about how seasons might be changing and how living things are responding to the changes. And there's a lot of people who are helping birds that aren't necessarily scientists or maybe not even nature observers, but people like hunters or and artists. And if you hunt waterfowl, you need to have a what's called a duck stamp, and the migratory bird hunting and conservation stamp, and these are really beautiful works of art, actually, that the stamps are made of, and a lot of people like to collect them. I do. I have every single one that's ever been made, and I don't hunt, and I'm not an artist really either, but I like to collect them because I know when I buy them, I'm actually helping to preserve wetlands for bird habitat and all the birds and other critters that live in the wetlands. So it's a way that I can help conserve birds and have an interesting hobby too. And there's also a junior duck stamp program, which is kind of cool, and kids from kindergarten through 12th grade can compete in that, and every year a junior duck stamp artist's contribution is selected to be printed into the junior duck stamp for that year. So it's a great way to celebrate waterfowl conservation and a great way that you and your friends can do something to help. So if you want to start out today, this is something you could do pretty easily. Go outside and just and watch, or keep watching the Eaglecam. You can do that with the eagles. Just sit quietly for 5 minutes and count every bird that you see or hear, and then record your data the way we talked about, and then find a way you want to share it on eBird or one of the other ways that we talked about. Then if you do all these things, just make careful observations and share your findings with other people. you're going to be able to help birds and their habitats, and just the way Florence Merriman Bailey helped people learn to watch birds and appreciate them, and help them learn how to be good neighbors and protecting birds. And nowadays it's so much easier. We have binoculars and field guides and lots and lots of information available to us online. But no matter what, it's still the most important thing is just taking time and just making careful observations, paying attention, and no matter who you are, a student, teacher, artist, hunter, birder, Eaglecam viewer, you can help scientists learn more and help birds thrive by making observations and sharing them. So thank you so much for watching today, and thank you, Randy, for doing this great program, and I hope you all enjoy becoming good community scientists.
Thank you very much, Janet. We appreciate your time and all your observations on community science. So Janet talked about this brochure. This is available online, and it's really a nice brochure. It's got a lot of material in it. It folds out, but if you go to migratorybirdday.org, that's where you can find this, migratorybirdday.org, and it's got some great tips for getting started in citizen science or community science. Of course, many folks, Deb and Tasha and other folks on the Eaglecam have been doing this for some years. A couple other things that Janet mentioned, we're protecting birds from striking our windows. We have a couple of different options here in the studio, and we've looked at these before. Now we've got some of the network or the URL addresses up here. The first one that we're looking at, birdsavers.com, that's simply something like parachute or white cord. Some people call it a Zen curtain. It blows in the breeze. Birds can see it. And you can make these yourself. And there's info on how to do that at birdsavers.com. Now, another option is behind here, and you don't have to have both. It's one or the other. The other option would be the white dots, and that's feather friendly. Featherfriendly.com or kaleidoscape.com have more information on how to apply that film. And it goes on to the exterior of your windows. And that's something anybody can do. Many of us have heard birds hit our windows, found dead birds on the ground. Birds just don't see windows, they see reflections. They don't understand what windows are. So they need our help in figuring out where they are, or where the windows are, so they can see them. And we want to give a shout out to our friends at the Fish and Wildlife Service Migratory Birds Division. They are helping us here at NCTC turn our campus into a bird-friendly campus, and we are putting those materials on all of our windows. We're in the process of doing that, so a big thanks to the Mig Birds Division. Janet mentioned Merlin, the app that identifies bird sounds. I know some of the folks, Tasha and Deb on the Eaglecam, have been using that. Especially in the mornings, we hear all these beautiful bird songs, and Merlin is an app that will identify that particular bird or give you some good ideas to narrow down the choices. We even have feeder boxes now that have a camera mounted inside the box. So along with Eaglecams, it's pretty amazing all the possibilities that are out there now and all the different ways that we can help our feathered friends out. So we'll go back to some questions here. Chantlin wants to know, where are you? Where's the nest located? We have a map here, if Rob would pull that up. We are along the banks of the Potomac River. We're in West Virginia, right across the river from Maryland. Shepherdstown is a small college town. We're just up the river from there, but we're about 70 miles upriver from Washington, D.C., in the beautiful eastern panhandle of West Virginia, not too far from Martinsburg. Hagerstown, Maryland, Winchester, Virginia be some of the bigger towns in the area. And speaking of duck stamps, Janet talked about duck stamps. We have the duck stamp dude on with us, and so duck stamps are another great way we can help birds. Hunters are required to purchase them, but anybody can buy them. And what happens with duck stamps, that money goes to buy habitat. And so many of the National Wildlife Refuges in the flyways across the United States have been purchased with funding from the duck stamp program that's been going on since the 40s. So that's a great program. So yes, they did get fed today. Early this morning, they had a nice feeding. And so Ms. Gloria is asking, at this age, how big is their wingspan? It's about 6 feet across right now. Now, maybe more like 6.5. A big female, she can have a 7-foot wingspan. Males, 6.5. But these young ones are nearly fully grown at this point, wing-wise. Hello from San Diego and hello from Chicago. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We got a nice cross-country representation here. And yeah, great to see Susie and RJ thriving. Let's see. We have, I know we have some questions in here. Yeah, yesterday was a big food day. And folks are saying, you know, they're hoping for snow's recovery up in Traverse City, Michigan there. And David at Hancock Wildlife say congratulations on a great season so far. From David and I at Hancock Wildlife, we're thrilled that the male is coming a long way in his development. And we have battled the same type of issues with our pairs. What they're referring to is that young males, and our male here, Scout, was a new male 2 years ago. And it turns out they just don't have much of a clue of what's going on as far as how to take care of young ones. And we've seen this at many other nests. So that's something that they have to learn. It might be hormone related, but Hancock Wildlife has done some of the early and great research on bald eagles and other birds out there. So we appreciate their good work out there at Hancock Wildlife. Nice to hear from you. Somebody wants to know how old Bella and Scout are. Bella, we think, is about 13 years old. She's our big female, and Scout is about 6 or 7. Now, the way we determine that is the first time that we see them here, we're assuming they're about 5 years old, because 5 years of age is when they're looking for a mate, and they're looking for their own territory, and they want to build a nest or try to take over another nest. So that's our kind of a baseline when they first come here. We assume they're about 5 years old, and Bella has been here since 2018, so that would make her about 13 years of age, and Scout about 6 or 7 years of age. And John is saying, hello from Ohio. Last night at 8:47, the sky was red, white, and blue at your nest. We've had some beautiful sunsets lately. And thanks for putting those URLs in there, Rob. migratorybirdday.org, birdsavers.com, featherfriendly.com. You can see those in the chat room, and kaleidoscape.org. Rose is asking, how much longer until Susie and RJ fledge? Well, probably about 2 to 3 weeks, Rose. Generally around week 11 or week 12 is what we've seen in the past. So they're right about 10 weeks old now. So a couple more weeks. So next time we are here online, could be very close to when they fledge. Our next broadcast, by the way, will be June 18th at 2 p.m. And I want to invite everybody in the local area, if you're in the Shepherdstown area, come out to NCTC, the National Conservation Training Center, on June 25th at 7 p.m. It's our Conservation Lecture Series, our monthly program. These are all free and open to the public. And this month, we're going to have a very interesting speaker, Andrew Moore. He's the author of a brand new book out just the other day, published, called The Beasts of the East, The Fall and Rise of America's Eastern Wilderness. And it's all about the critters that aren't here anymore in the East, like bison and elk, cougars, timber wolves, and so on. So The Beasts of the East, that's going to be Thursday, June 25th at 7 p.m. And all you need to do is send us an email to NCTC lecture series, put a hyphen in front of and after the word lecture at fws.gov. Or look at our Facebook page and you'll find that address as well. So everybody's invited. By the way, we do record those, so if you're not able to get here, it will be on the Fish and Wildlife Service YouTube channel, same one you're watching right now, on July 1st at 2 p.m. or anytime after that. So with that, I'm going to check our questions. I think we've got them all. So thank you all very much for joining us today, and enjoy the eagle watching.